be commissioner of college football. Josh, does commissioner of college football outrank governor of Louisiana? Because you may have to step in.
Well, I got to wait and hear Jeff Landry's take on that. He had a take on everything else today. I assume he has a take on this. At the end of the day, Scott Woodward is not going to decide who the commissioner is, and a committee will be formed to decide that. That's what I'm gathering from the situation down there.
How long have you covered college football?
I feel like since I was born, but professionally about 12, 13 years.
And as a fan, even longer. Has anything you've ever seen approached what the governor of Louisiana said behind the podium today?
Yeah, but it wasn't in my lifetime. It was in a 30 for 30 documentary titled Pony Excess. I would imagine the governor out there and the goings-on around the SMU program, those look to be pretty saucy. That looked to be a pretty interesting mix of politics and college football. But in my lifetime, no, off the top of my head, I don't remember it.
Josh, one more coaching search question, then we'll talk some ball. Right now, I think we would all agree LSU is the best job available. In your opinion, will a better job than that come available in this cycle?
No, I don't. Let me back up a second. So up until about 5 minutes ago, I would have echoed what you said. LSU is the best job available. LSU is the best job available if there's proper alignment behind it. If there's not, you're just being set up for disaster. And are you going to have a really good logo on your chest? Yeah. Stadium going to be incredible? Yeah. Great resources, but it's all poisoned if you don't have great resources or if you don't have a great alignment. So the answer, if there's alignment there, is absolutely no, because I really don't think there's much of a better job in the country if LSU's aligned. If it's not aligned, it's not a better job than Florida. It's not a better job than Ole Miss. I'm just talking about the Lane Kiffin hypothetical there. Mm-hmm. So they've got to figure themselves out before we just, slam that stamp on the paper. Oh, this is the best job available. It can be. It's actually entirely up to them.
Well, what's so interesting about what he said, honestly, is there's a lot of truth in these buyouts are ridiculous. Pointing at people saying we're going to have to come up with $53 million and our next coach will not have a contract like that. I mean, that would be great, right? But also, if you're trying to attract a top candidate where they currently are, whether it's Cignetti now with his new deal at Indiana or Drinkwitz will get one from Missouri or Kiffin at Ole Miss, they're still going to get those massive, fully guaranteed buyouts and all that.
Yeah, I think a couple of things here. So the first one is, as long as you're competing in a market for someone's services with other places that are willing to put that kind of contract in front of them, you're either going to have to go along with that kind of contract structure or you're going to have to completely change the game somehow, which is probably not going to happen. And so then the follow-up is, well, okay, if you're not all going after the same big fish, if you're going to go a radically different direction, maybe you're going to offer the job to Blake Baker, maybe you're going to go to Iowa State and offer it to Matt Campbell or something like that. Those guys and their representation probably a whole lot more willing to play ball along those lines because, hey, getting the LSU head coaching job is worth it, where they otherwise wouldn't have gotten it. But look, here's the other part of that. I do agree with what you said. I agree with what he said. It's insane that these buyouts are the way they are. It's insane that one guy is on the hook for two of the biggest buyouts in the history of this sport. I've got no problem with you throwing him under the bus even. Got no problem with you excoriating the process. I just would have hoped you had a plan in place before it all went public, before you pulled the lever on Brian Kelly, before the wheels got put in motion on the coaching search, to where we're not sitting here talking about a press conference on a Wednesday afternoon where the governor says, I don't know who's going to hire the coach. We'll just figure it out. It's kind of, we're going to jump out of the plane. We think the parachute's on our back, but we're just going to figure it out on the way down.
That's a great analogy, Josh. I like that a lot. So let's talk about some actual football here. I know we would rather do that. And we'll start here in the state of Mississippi with Ole Miss. A year ago, Ole Miss misses that opportunity to go to the playoff. And we all think, okay, they put their chips in the middle and they busted. They come back this year with less expectations. Their starting quarterback goes down in week 2. And all they've done now is probably become the SEC team with the best chance of making the playoff at this point. Just how impressed have you been with this Ole Miss team and what they've done this year?
I don't think it's been talked about enough, honestly. I think people have talked about Kiffin a lot. I don't know that people even in the SEC fully appreciate just the story right now and what they've accomplished, because I'm with you. I thought the team was going to take a step back this year, and especially if you told me in Atlanta for media days, hey, not only are you thinking they're going to take a step back, but what if I were to have told you, oh, they're also going to lose their starting quarterback? Because one of the things I was hanging my hat on with any optimism I had was Austin Simmons. So if you're going to lose him, yeah, I would have been worried about it. And I think, ironically, the Kentucky game is what their season is hinging on again this year, just like it did last year. They lost that Kentucky game, and it removed all wiggle room, where they lost that Florida game later in the year, and they're done. Well, they played Kentucky this year. It wasn't a pretty game, but they did get out of there with the win, and that's given them breathing room. And then they go, just add on to that, they split the Georgia and Oklahoma back-to-back road stretches where, yet again, they've got some breathing room, and now all the talk is about the head coach and where's he going to go, and not enough talk, at least nationally, is about the team. I really just wonder, like, how much attention are people paying to Ole Miss's football team? That doesn't matter. Like, they're going to do what they do regardless. I just think it's been overlooked nationally.
We got this question on our text line, speaking about the other program in the state. He wants to know how you view the state of the Mississippi State program, and how long do you think Jeff Lebby will make it? And also a follow-up question, how long before Dan Mullen finds his way back in the SEC? That's from somebody on our text line here.
That latter question is, I think Dan could do it tomorrow. I think Dan would have serious traction for the Arkansas job, for example, if he wanted it. I don't know how much he is looking to do that. We'll see. But I think he'll be back in the SEC as soon as he wants to be back in the SEC, I think is the best way to put that. I want to ask you a question before I answer this question. What has the general temperature there been on Jeff Lebby, especially after last weekend?
I feel like on the surface, people are very, very frustrated, but if you let it simmer a little bit, you can't help but look at this team and say how much better they are than a season ago.
I am wholeheartedly on board with that. I mean, it pissed me off, it aggravated me, sorry about that, to no end, to have seen them take Tennessee to the limit, take Florida to the limit, should have won the game, and knowing you got Texas down 17 and to let them off the ropes is so inexcusable. And you got every right to be mad about that as a fan, because I'm mad about it, and I'm just sitting here as a neutral observer. Having said that, man, you are trying to light a very, very wet pile of wood on fire there if you walk in as a new head coach. Second year now, so you hope the wood's dried out a little bit, you got a better shot. I know people there probably appreciate the uphill climb that it takes to compete at Mississippi State, and I got a lot of respect for how competitive they've been able to be in multiple spots this year. I actually really, really like their prospects this weekend against Arkansas. It's one of my favorite games of the weekend. So I've circled that one just personally, but that's in the future. As far as what's happened so far, I think it's okay to feel two ways there. I think it's okay to be really, really angry, but also, like you just said, kind of let it simmer down, and then you sit on the couch and you just stew over it with your arms crossed for 30 minutes, and then you come out of it and you say, but hey, I mean, there is a glass half full approach to this. We have been very competitive with rosters that on paper don't look like we're supposed to be competitive with yet. The one thing I'm probably banking on more than anything is the same thing that I was hearing in the spring, and that is just along the defensive front in particular. They look a whole lot more like an SEC team this year than they ever did last year. Just the bodies they have. Yeah. I bank on that continuing. All the talk in that state right now is about Ole Miss. No one's paying attention to Mississippi State. I bank on them being able to harness that. And you got 4 games left. I believe they got 4 unless they got a late bye. So you got November left here. They still need that game. They need that win that they can sell in recruiting, because you're trying to sell vision right now. That's really what you have to sell if you're Mississippi State. You got to sell vision, and you got to point to something and say, that is a precursor of what's to come. I don't know what they're pointing to yet, because all due respect, close losses are still losses. So you got to get that win at some point.
We only got about 60 seconds left, Josh. If the Heisman Trophy is supposed to go to the most valuable player in college football, should it go to Diego Pavia?
No, it should go to Haynes King. But Diego
I like
Pavia
that.
would be right there. I mean, I got a Georgia Tech buddy who texts me about once a day. Haynes King is who Diego Pavia thinks he is. And I think that's a little harsh, but I do take the point. Haynes King's having a phenomenal year. Now, I think the 3, 4, 500 however many thousand of us that are listening right now, I think we know that that's not the way the Heisman voting is going to go.
Right.
But if it did go the way it's supposed to go, I'd have Haynes King, I'd have Diego, I'd have both of them right in the middle of that conversation.
Love talking college football, and nobody better to do it with than Josh Pate. Josh Pate's College Football Show. If you don't listen, you don't know enough about college football. Thanks, Josh. We always appreciate it.